so I finally did it. I'm here recording my video. Hopefully, this is the one. Because I spent, what time is it? 3:39. I spent an embarrassing amount of time setting all this up. I think it was probably about, I want to say like 2 hours, something crazy like that. Got my electrolytes. And I'm going to try and do this in a way that is uncut, just because I tend to, when I make videos, I tend to like not like what I say, or I have a bunch of ums or uhs, and I like gotta get rid of them. I gotta cut them out somehow, and I'm just gonna record and not edit. Well, yeah, for the most part, not edit. Hopefully, that's the goal. But so we're here. We're going to talk a little bit about things, specifically psychology and mental health. That's what I really want to get at with this. And to start off with, when I talk about the process that I went through to get here, it started off with me using a like this lamp, this sun lamp that we have, and it has a little connector for a like an iPad holder. And I like took off the iPad holder thing and I like put my mic onto it. And a majority of the time was spent editing or like working on the audio. So like mic placement, how does it sound? Does it sound good? Oh my gosh, there's too much ambient noise. Got to shut off all the noise. That was a whole problem. That was a whole thing. And then the next part of it was getting a camera set up. And that was like the hugest part. Like I went deep into that. I have a webcam that does like a decent job, and did OBS Studio to try and show things. My computer, my laptop is not the greatest. So as I was recording, I would be getting really laggy video, and it just was not looking good, and I had to adjust settings. And when I did, that was able to make my computer work well, and like record better. The video was just so bad, and I was like, I love the video of my phone. Like I love the camera that my phone has, but I love the mic that I own. So I'm like, how do I combine those? And I was like, well, I can just record the video on my phone and then use the microphone from there and work with that. But I'm like, no, I want to do something more professional. And I got to using my phone, using Wi-Fi to connect to my computer, which I hope works well. I hope it works as good. I have a decent Wi-Fi, so hopefully that works. Another big aspect was not only the video and the audio, but then getting lighting, and the lighting was horrible. I had the light like faced towards me, and it just looked so bad, especially with the webcam that I had. It looked so bad. And I looked up like tips. How do I get lighting good for just a little sit down video? How do I do that? And I'm like inspired by all these YouTubers and like influencers, and their lighting is so great. And I'm like, how do I get mine like that? And I'm like trying to position the light, and it's facing me, and it doesn't look great. And I was like, I have no clue. And I looked up a video, and they're like, diffusion. You should diffuse your light. And I have this poster board that I'm going to be using for D&D most likely, that does apparently from what I'm seeing, does a decent job at diffusing the light. And I had like really bad shadows behind me. And it was not good. And then the poster board, and that's setting up the light so it's behind me, it's not facing me, but the light from the board is bouncing back at me. Crazy stuff. But here I am. I have my Pixel Buds in, which I'm probably going to take out just because I can hear myself better, and I've been adjusting them a lot. So yeah, here I am. Don't know how long this video is going to be. It's maybe like a little introduction video to get acclimated to things. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my mental health, and specifically getting into like acting and how that's influenced me. And I made a video a while back on TikTok talking a little bit with the 60 seconds I used, talking a little bit about my process of starting acting and how not only did I necessarily enjoy doing it, but I also enjoyed the mental health aspect of stepping out of my own skin for a little bit and hopping into a different role. And when I say slipping out of my skin, I think of I think of Catch Me If You Can. So yeah, so I just wanted to dive a little deeper into that, what got me into theater and like how it has impacted my life, because I feel like those things, especially like any hobby, really has some aspect that affects your mental health. Nobody really knows what they're going to be interested in. You just find something that you like and you do it, and it brings you joy and brings you comfort. So that was it for me. And for some people it's art, some people it's music. So yeah, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and how I sort of got or used that to help understand myself a little bit better. So I started with, I believe when I was in kindergarten-ish, started with like very mediocre school productions. And they weren't even like, not like high school, like a school production. It was like a classroom production. Something like during Christmas time, they would do like a Christmas play. And I believe it was maybe even for like the unit, doing the unit. And I remember it so vividly. And I think that's why acting means so much to me, is because this is one of the childhood memories that I really like remember. Unless I'm crazy and I didn't get Santa Claus in this production and somebody else did, and I was jealous and my body told me to rewire it so I remember that I was Santa Claus. But anyway, I believe I was Santa Claus, and I'll try to find the receipts for that. But I started with that, and I really liked being able to be someone else. And when you're a kindergartner, being able to be Santa Claus is awesome. It was like a production with like Santa Claus and all his elves. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just remember feeling so dedicated, like so there. And afterwards, I just forgot about it. It was just something, and you grow up and you go into first grade and second grade and third grade, and you forget about it. Until I got to, I believe it was fourth or fifth grade, and I got cast as the title role for a high school production. The high school was my high school, Lewiston High School. It was a production of Oliver Twist, just called Oliver. It was a musical. I did not have singing lessons. I was not an accomplished singer. I wasn't a childhood prodigy who grew up with lessons and doing everything. No, like that was the start for me. And I remember going in and auditioning with a bunch of people and feeling nervous, but at the same time, for somebody my age, I think I was around 9 or 10, remembering that I don't think I was as nervous as I should have been. And I did the audition, I sang, I acted, and like a week goes by and I'm not even thinking about it. And I already knew going in that it was a high school production, so they might be changing their mind and want a high schooler to be Oliver, and all the other kids, the workhouse kids, to be kids. But they wanted somebody who was a child who could do Oliver. And so like a week goes by and I don't hear anything, and I remember exactly where I am. I'm playing in my brother's room, who he lived with us on and off occasionally. And my mom walks into the bedroom and she's like, you have a phone call. And I was terrified. I was like, what? I don't get phone calls. At the time, I had like friends who would call occasionally, and I didn't have my own phone. And I go, okay. And I like get the phone, and it's the director, Richard Martin, and he says, how you doing? I say, I'm doing great. And he was like, I want to offer you the role of Oliver. And I just remember being like, what? Yeah, of course. And my mom told me, she's like, I'll help with like getting you there and rehearsal schedules and things like that, because this was my first production. And now knowing that I was a title role in this production was like a big thing for a first leap into theater. And I was so pumped. I was like, yeah, I get to, of course I'll do it. And I like hung up the phone, or gave the phone back to my mom, and I don't know. I don't know if I went about my day like normal, or I sat and thought about it. But rehearsal started, and that was like what I was gonna do. And at first I went in obviously not being like, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. I didn't even know that this was going to be an interest of mine. I liked music here and there, but I went into like the rehearsal space, and it was so fun. It was really fun. I just remember how fun it was to be there and to like act and to interact with high schoolers. That is the coolest thing you could ever do, is interact with high schoolers. And it was great because I was accepted in a community for once. There was a community that accepted me. And of course there were people who might have been a little upset that Oliver was given to a child. But yeah, I went in, and there was a group of high schoolers who wanted to interact with me, and who I looked up to, and like I continued to look up to. And throughout the rehearsal process, I realized that this was more than just like a fun gig. This was more than just being somebody else and putting myself in a different role. I had this home away from home. I had a community that I could go to, and there was never a rehearsal where I left feeling bummed out or not excited or tapped out and saying, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. There was never a question. I wanted to do it. And I had somebody who taught me how to do a trendy dance at the time. I had a group of two high school girls who I became really close with. And it was a lot more than I think I knew at the time. And I look back on it and I realized that was the stepping stone for that being a part of my life, and what started the future of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I look back on that and I realized that as a kid, I was struggling with a lot more than most. And I was struggling with a lot of things that I didn't even understand at the time. I didn't understand why I wasn't fostering a good relationship with my mom, even though she attempted to. I didn't understand why I felt so lonely, even though I had people there for me. And I didn't understand why, when I was alone, my thoughts were telling me that people are temporary and you're going to lose these people. They're going to, the show's going to be over and you're going to lose them. And that was the start of sort of that internal dialogue of what's going on, why is this affecting me, what is it about this that is affecting me. And the more shows I did going into middle school, I did a bunch. The more shows I did, the more I realized that, again, I didn't just like this because it was fun and there was, for a musical, there was great songs to sing and dance. And then for plays, there were really cool moments and set pieces. That was part of it. But I think the majority of it came from the comfortability of slipping out of my skin and doing something where I got to put my life on pause for a little bit. I got to tell myself that when I get into this rehearsal space, even if I don't feel wanted outside of here, I can pause that for a moment and be a character who is loved, or is somebody else, or who has goals and ambitions, and somebody whose story is already written for them. And I admired acting because all of these characters had a story that had a beginning, middle, end. And most of the time, it ended very happily. And then I started realizing that not necessarily was it about slipping out of my skin, but then realizing and thinking about what was it about that beginning, middle, end, that story that the character had. What was it about that made me reflect a lot on my life and my mental health? And the fact is that for me right now, and me back then, I don't know what the future is. And uncertainty creates a lot of fear. It creates a lot of fear. For some, having a level of uncertainty can be exciting, can be exhilarating. You don't know what's going to happen next. That's the beauty of life. But for me, it was so terrifying because even if a million things went right, my brain would only think about the things that could go wrong. Specifically when it came to attachment and people in my life. And I've never, ever feared death before. But it was something about living that terrified me. About living through things and experiencing life that was terrifying. Not knowing what the next chapter of my life is going to be and where I'm going to be and who I'm going to be with. That terrified me. It was very emotional. It was very emotional when I came to that realization, and it became sort of like a weird therapy for me. It became a really weird place to cope, where I could play a character who has a lot of similar aspects that I do, perhaps, and I could see how they resolved them and what problems they faced. And during this show, I got to see the repercussions of their actions unfold. And with mine, I never knew what mistakes I was going to make and what the repercussions of those could be. And again, that terrified me. So I started thinking a lot about, as I did more and more theater, realizing that this was something that I was gonna hold on to every chance I got. I was gonna do something. I was gonna be someone every time. I didn't care who I was just gonna be somebody else. I was gonna step away from me for a moment. And every time I walked into that rehearsal space, it was relieving to just take off the coat of who I was and put on the costume of somebody that has their story put together. And I continued, and I did it. I played roles I didn't think I was going to play. I played roles that I was nervous about because I hadn't had similar life experiences than they did. But I used those things to develop a very unique sense of empathy, a very unique and strong sense of empathy that I think theater gifted me. And for me, it's very sad to see people out there who it is very hard for them to be empathetic or to put themselves in other people's shoes. And I realized that I think a lot of this empathy that I believe I have stemmed from being somebody else and seeing their story and feeling their experiences and witnessing others in the production that my character interacts with, seeing them develop and grow, watch them be in pain, watch them be in pain by things I did as a character. And so I developed a really, really big sense of the world based off of this. A very narrow view of the world, but a view nonetheless. And I developed this like compassion and this realization that every person that I've never even interacted with before, they have a story. Every person that has died has had a beginning, middle, and end to their story. And once you discover that and you really take time to think about that really daunting idea, you want to be better. You want to be a light. And you want other people to succeed and be happy because of that. And so a lot of my delves into politics came from that sense of passion and empathy of, I don't know these people that are affected, but they're affected and they're hurting. And I've played somebody who is hurting. And when you get to have so many roles that are so different, you really do get a piece of almost every type of person. And you be them for a while. And so I really held on to that belief that theater was a place that created or expanded this sense of empathy that I truly believe that I have. And when I do a show now, I am very, very invested in researching this character and being them and trying to unravel their story and what are they going through. And of course, they don't know, just like I don't know. They don't know the end of their story yet. You know, we're in the middle of the show. I know what lines I have for the rest of the show, and I know how the show is going to end. I know how my character is going to develop and grow and conclude things. But in those moments, that character doesn't know, just like I don't. And the more I did that, the more I thought about my life in a very deep and scary way sometimes. And I realized how much I take advantage sometimes of the life that I'm living, and not in the sense of what I'm doing or, you know, what consequences come from my actions, but particularly being being someone who realizes that in moments I don't think about the other people around me and what stories they have. And those are the moments where I feel guilty. I might know what my truth is. I might know what my intentions are. But to put myself into the shoes of somebody else and see how I'm acting or behaving, sometimes I really felt guilt and shame. And even though sometimes the people in my life did things that very much hurt me, I think I came to realize that a lot of these people acted that way for a reason. And it doesn't make the behavior that they did good, by no means. But it gives you a question to ask yourself of, what are they going through? And so now, and I'm still working on this in therapy a lot, is instead of shaming somebody for the way they treated me or holding that against me, shifting that to be, why did this person treat me like that? Why did I feel uncomfortable with that? And what can I do moving forward? And once I realized that people, again, have their own story and their own struggles, and I dove into psychology a lot, I started to realize that a lot of these behaviors or harmful things that were genuinely harmful and were valid to be harmful, they stemmed from something in that person that I have no control to tell them to work on it, that they have to work on it. And I understood that by taking the time before I react and before I make things bigger than they are, to just take a moment to realize, what is their story right now? What chapter are they on in their story? And how is that chapter affecting what they're doing to me? And again, you don't have to say it's okay that they did this. It's not. If it hurt you or if they broke your boundaries, that doesn't make it okay. But it becomes a lot easier to manage and to reflect when you think about and try to understand why it happened. And I had a lot of pain in my childhood. I had a home. I had food. I was able to go to school, the same school. I was able to do the things that I loved to do. But I think what I was missing was some emotional stability. And I think we as a society sometimes look at the gifts we're given: food, shelter, water, and you think you shouldn't complain because you have these things and other people don't. And I was told that all through my life when I was struggling and complaining. And it was a lot more than that. Because yes, I got those core fundamental needs met, but there were a lot of emotional needs that I wasn't getting met. Especially now looking back and realizing that I was a child with really, really bad attachment trauma. I was adopted. I was adopted late in terms of developmental age. I wasn't a baby, I was a toddler. And just take a moment to think about, in your head, a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old that you know. Just close your eyes and just think. Think about their parents, how they interact. Think about if you knew them as a baby growing up. Think about their story and the life that they lived, right? Think about this child being connected to a figure in their life. And now imagine that they are just plucked out of that at 3 or 4 and put somewhere else and told, this is somebody you confide in. This is somebody who supports you. And this is somebody who you need to listen to and be there for. And to say it's confusing is such a big understatement. And when you're a child that age, you don't know how to express that. You really don't. You don't know how to say, the feelings hurt so bad, and I know that they're feelings, so let me talk about them. You don't. And so what I did a lot as a toddler and as a child was I would tell people that I had physical pains happening. And I was met with a lot of validation and care. Oh my gosh, let me see what happened. And they couldn't find anything. They wouldn't be able to find it. I would fall or say I fell. And there was a lot of confusion and why are you lying about this? And, that's not something to joke about. And reflecting a lot more, I realized that how to express that the emotional wounds that I had were inside. They were emotions. I didn't know how to do that. And I believed that by telling people that I was hurt physically, I had boo-boos and I needed comfort, and I would be met with that. I learned that the world really cares when it's something you can see. And if they can't see it, or if you don't know how to explain it, then how can you get comfort and validation from that? And I was a very young kid. And I needed comfort and love. And my mom gave the best that she could. The best that she could. And of course, yes, she gave me a home to live in. She gave me food to eat. She drove me to rehearsals when I needed to. She did all these things for me. Did all of these requirements that happen. But there was a lot of emotional things that I wasn't given. A lot of validation and warmth and comfort that I really needed and didn't know how to say that I needed it. And it's hard. My mom was a single mom. And she had, 4 boys and 1 girl to take care of. Well, 3 boys, I think, because my oldest brother was off on his own, but 3 boys and 1 girl to take care of. And I became very distant. I didn't want to tell her about my day. I didn't want to tell her about my relationships. I didn't want to confide and be open and be vulnerable. And I learned that there were things that I wasn't going to be able to get in that relationship. And I was always told to just be grateful. And by voicing concerns and pain, I was told that I wasn't grateful. I was told that if you call somebody out on their behavior, or you tell somebody that they hurt you, all you're going to be met with is, this is what I did for you, this is what I continue to do for you, and you don't respect me, and you're not grateful. And that really sucked. And again, I come from a place of love, not hate. And that is something that I've tried really hard to do, and I have done very well, is now approach this in a stance of love, not hate. And it's hard when I voice concerns about real things that have hurt and affect me to this day. And it's met with, well, she gave you a house. They gave you a home. They gave you food. So be grateful for that. Who cares about how, who cares if you get yelled at? Or if she hurt your feelings? Be grateful because you're alive and you live in a house that is beautiful, or an apartment that is beautiful and warm. Be grateful for that and stop complaining. And I heard that all the time from all aspects of my life. I heard that from my family directly. I heard that from teachers, from friends. And I just learned that if I voice concerns with people, all I'm going to be met with is, too bad. Be grateful that I did this for you. And I internalized that a lot, and it created a lot of resentment over my teen years, a lot. And I didn't, there were many times where I didn't want to be a part of this family anymore, because all I thought was, I don't like being treated this way. And if I express that, I am met with, I'm told that I'm ungrateful. So what do I do in that case? And it's not until I went into therapy and talked with friends and did theater that I realized that your pain is always valid. The behavior of others that hurts you is always valid, and it's real. And no one can tell you that the pain that you've experienced is not real. Nobody can. And it's hard when you set boundaries, especially in a family setting, and especially with somebody who is an authority figure in the household, to set boundaries and to be met with, I don't listen to you, you listen to me. That is hard, and that is damaging. And again, coming from a place of love, we need to be open and honest about what hurts us, and people who have hurt us or support those who have hurt us need to think about how valid it is to feel that, and it is not an attack on this person's character, but rather a focus on that behavior. And a lot of people in my life, when I would bring up concerns like that, it was always met with almost like I was attacking this person's character, and I wasn't. And it was so hard to learn who to be comforted by. And mind you, I was somebody that, because of my attachment trauma, I need love and support and validation. But then when you seek that out and you're met with anger, or if you don't know how to express yourself or express those needs, you learn that, well, maybe I should just withdraw. Maybe I shouldn't be a part of that. I should learn to take care of my own needs emotionally. And that was a constant constant battle was that attachment and wanting to belong and wanting self-worth and self-love, but then being met with, I'm afraid to ask for what I need because I've learned that from all these interactions that I might not get those needs met, or it's going to be turned against me. And I mean, that created a fearful, avoidant attachment style for me. And for the longest time, I thought that I had anxious attachment. I thought it was fully anxious. Anxiety is what drives my attachment. Wanting to be loved and held close and comforted, and needing people and terrified of them leaving. That's what I thought my attachment style was. But then realizing that it was a fearful avoidant, that I do need and want and crave this love and validation and comfort. But then that fearful and that avoidant side says, hold on, you could mess this up if you push too much. So you got to take care of your own needs. You got to step back and say, I'm taking distance from this person. I'm going to limit my interactions because I've learned that everything I am met with when I express needs is met with either a joke or is met with anger. And so what do you do then? You learn to rely on yourself, that I need this validation and comfort, and they're not getting my needs met, so I'm not going to approach them. And I'm currently working a lot on doing better with being open about my feelings, and knowing that no matter what, nobody can tell me what I feel. Nobody can tell me that the pain they caused me was not real. They have no power to do that. And I have the power to express how that has hurt me. And you can either accept it and listen to a boundary of, I don't want to be treated like that anymore. And you could respect that, and we can have a beautiful, foundational family relationship, friendship. But if you're not going to listen to that and what I need, that the way you're treating me hurts, and you don't want to acknowledge this hurt, then I don't want to spend the effort to try and fix it for you. And that is so hard for somebody who has a lot of anxiety with attachment, to say, if you're going to keep hurting me, I'm going to leave. That is the hardest thing to do. And I'm not even talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about family relationships or friendships. But I needed so much these people, this family, these friendships, that I would allow myself to be hurt and exhausted instead of telling them that it hurt and they need to stop, and if they don't stop, then I'm going to take space from them. That was the hardest transition of my life, was realizing that I do have the power to do that. I have the power to tell people that I'm not going to take that. And I know that your behavior hurt, and that's all I need. I don't need you to tell me that it didn't hurt or give excuses. I just need you to change that. And if you can't do that, then I don't know. And so going back to theater, I realized going in that I was able to establish a community with people who I could be myself, and not only be the character that I was playing, but be myself to them and create friendships. And to step away sometimes from a home life that at times for me was painful and was invalidating. And again, it doesn't mean I'm villainizing the people in my household that contributed to all of these anxieties and fears and pain, but acknowledging that it's real and it happened. And I would never tell anybody about those things. Or if I did, I would not be sure how to address it in a way so that instead of being told that I should be grateful, I'm met with comfort and warmth. And theater taught me throughout all of the people I've played that all of these people know what hurts them, and they know that they are valid for feeling that, and they take action and they tell people how they're feeling. And I need to do a better job at that. I do, and that's one of my faults. I need to tell people that hurt me. I need to tell people that I don't want to be treated a certain way. I need to tell people that I have anxiety or fears. I need to tell people that I'm reflecting a lot on my behaviors. And I think the more that I reflect on that, the more I'm going to be able to be open and respect myself, respect my boundaries. And I haven't been respecting my boundaries. I haven't even known how to set them. And now that I do, and I am slowly being able to set boundaries, it is terrifying. It is terrifying. And so I want to leave with that for today, to just make sure that you think about other people a little bit more if you can. Try to find somebody that you don't know, somebody on the street. Look at them for a moment and realize that they have their own story and problems and successes and loves. They have those. But realizing that you have a story too, and it's not over yet, but you have the power to tell people no. You have the power to not allow yourself to be put in an uncomfortable position or in a bad mood or to be treated unfairly. You have the right to say no. And it's something I'm working really hard on. And hopefully I'll get there. I've made a lot of progress and I'm far from getting there, but making progress is progress. So, let me know what progress you guys have made, and hopefully I'll make a video like this and maybe put the audio on some other podcast. But I just wanted to talk about that. So just make sure you love yourself, love one another, love people around you. Try to find a moment to think about the reason for their actions. And you don't have to forgive them right away. But a good start is to understand why they did what they did to you. And acknowledging that it doesn't make it right and it doesn't make your feelings invalid. It happened and it sucked. And that's okay. So I'm going to end it there. Thanks for watching if you watched it all the way through, or listening if I get this on a podcast. Hopefully I'll do another episode soon that'll maybe be more fine-tuned to a specific topic. But yeah, I'll end it there. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.